Oh, Saturday sun. I met someone. Chapter 8. A Miraculous Ladybug High School Fanfiction. Marinette can admit, sometimes she's really oblivious. There can be so much going on around her, and she'll have no sense of it all. It's not like she doesn't care or tries not to notice it, it just sometimes slips her mind. It is because of those traits, perhaps, that she is in this situation she is in right now. And that is being trapped underneath the park hall because she neglected to check the weather or the sky to see if it would rain or not before coming out to design here in her sketchbook. Now it's raining hard as ever, and she doesn't want to make the 15-mile walk home, or even the 5-minute walk to the train station, where she'd inevitably have to walk 15 more minutes to get home. It's easiest just to stay dry under the roof for the time being and let the weather pass. If she had been just a little bit smarter, she would have heard the low sounds of the drizzles and gotten the heck out of here. Alas, she's stuck. It's certainly not all bad, though. The weather provides a nice ambiance and relaxation as she draws, and no one is shouting or running to her like how it is in the park is when it's totally full. It's just her peacefully designing and sketching new ideas by herself, with no one to bother her. It's kind of nice, stress relieving even. It is, till it isn't. The sound of her name being called out pulls her from out of her little world, and the sight itself makes her jump nearly a meter high. "Hey, Marinette," Adrian says, with a little amused grin. His hair is damp from the elements, and she can't for the life of her figure out why he's out here. "Mind if I join you?" She nods and motions for him to come sit next to her. "What are you doing out here?" she asks him. "Could ask the same of you," he teases, and nudges her shoulder with his. It makes her red, and she tucks her hair behind her ears, looking away. "Well, I'm sketching out some new designs," she explains, tapping her journal and then raising a brow to him. "And you?" Adrian laughs and admits that she has him caught. "I was taking a little walk, to clear my head and all that. But then it started raining, and I needed to find shelter, and luckily," he motions to around them, "this is here for our safety." "Oh yeah," she giggles. "I'm so thankful for it, otherwise I'd have to make the 15-minute trek home, which is normally not so bad when it's sunny or have an umbrella. But alas, I'm void of either of those today," she jokes. But completely honestly, the sound of the rain is really calming, and I'm just trying to relax myself. God, I don't even want to imagine if this was a thunderstorm, she sighs, wrapping her arms around herself. "If it was storming that bad, we could probably rush to my car," Adrian offers. "I didn't park super far away. This is just closer," he admits. Marinette nods and laughs. This is nice. Honestly. It's a nice situation to come from, an unfortunate one. Of course, no normal person wants to be stuck outside because of a rain shower, but at least she's not all alone, and at least she's with Adrian. God forbid what would happen if it was Chloe sitting next to her. Honestly, Marinette would rather take the walk and get completely drenched if it meant escaping the girl. At the same time, she'd probably stay still out of pure spite till Chloe herself left and had to get wet in the rain. "If the rain doesn't stop, I might just have to take you up on that offer," she teases, and that makes Adrian laugh. It's not his usual laugh, though. There's a sadness and a hollowness to it that makes her frown. His grin isn't nearly as wide, and his eyes aren't shining and sparkling nearly as much. Something's wrong, and she knows it. The question is if he'll admit it to her or not. Of course, she wouldn't blame him if he'd rather keep it private, but she does hope that he trusts her enough to tell her. "Can I ask you something?" she says. He nods. "How come you need to take a walk?" "Is something wrong?" Marinette inquires. She's trying her best to look open and non-invasive. "It's okay if it's something that you want to keep private. I completely understand that. But if you're willing or feel like you need to talk about it, I can listen and do what I can to help," she tells him. The way he looks at her makes her hold her breath for a moment. There's something soft about the way he looks at her, gentle and almost like sweet adoration. She's not quite sure what to make of it, or if she's reading into it right. For all she knows, this could just be his resting, thinking face that she's reading into way too hard. "Thank you," Adrian says in a voice that's barely audible over the pitter-patter of the rain. He smiles, but it's a little downtrodden, and she's hit with the sudden urge to grasp him into a hug. "I think maybe talking about it will help," he admits with a little laugh, and Marinette nods, urging him to go on. Adrian sighs and leans his face onto his hands. Marinette watches him with even more concern growing. "I kind of got in a fight with my dad, although I don't know how much I could really call it a fight." He looks up to the sky and then back down, as if he was Icarus, who really thought he could fly, but at the very last moment had that fantasy ripped away from him and plummeted into the ground in his death. It was more like I finally snapped and let it all out while he just stood there like a statue. He let out a humorless laugh. "My father, he's just so cold to me, all of the time. He just wants me to do whatever he wants. And for most of my life, yeah, I did that, but then I realized there were things that I wanted to experience, and things that I didn't love doing. We'd been on thin ice for a while, and today I told him a firm no, and he..." A wave of anger crosses his face in such a way that Marinette has to admit she's a little scared of him right now. "He threatened to take me out of school and homeschool me again. It feels like he's trying to imprison me or whatever." Marinette gingerly put her hand on his back, hoping the motion would soothe him. He seems to relax under her touch, so the risky move paid off. "Take a deep breath," she says in a soft voice. "I'll let you breathe for a second, and then you can continue. But first, I just wanted to tell you that I'm glad you trust me with this kind of stuff, and two, I think you have all the right to feel upset. Clearly you're a social person. Even if you're a bit shy, you like being around people overall." "Yeah, but he just thinks I'm being a whiny teenager," Adrian explains with fury in his voice. "And he acts like I have no idea what I'm doing in my life and that I should just follow his every command. But I do know what I'm doing. I don't know everything, but I do know that I want to spend time with friends and go to homecoming and keep playing piano. But I also know I don't want to keep fencing, and I don't want to be some perfect cover boy model." Do you think he's just scared to let you go?" Marinette asks in a small voice. Adrian nods. "Probably. I don't have any siblings, and my mom, she's not around anymore," he admits, raking a hand through his hair. It's all messy now, and in a way that Marinette has never seen before. She has to divert her eyes or else she'll get too distracted with how good his hair looks when she's trying to comfort him. "It's just us two in a big house." Marinette nods. "Well, it's certainly a good thing that you understand why he's more controlling than other parents. But just to let you know, it's not an excuse for how he treats you," she tells him with a kind smile. "I really don't know how best to help you with this other than just listening, but maybe you can find a way to confront him and get him to realize that making you do things you don't want to do is all just based on his happiness and hurting yours," she points out. "Maybe," Adrian sighs. He turns and smiles at her. It's an exhausted smile. She doesn't blame it at all. "Thanks for helping me." "Anytime," she blushes, hugging her sketchbook close to her chest. "Can I ask though? You play piano? I had no idea." Adrian laughs, and it seems to make even the dark and gloomy cloudy sky look brighter. "Yeah, I do. Started lessons when I was 6 and have been playing ever since. I learned on classical music and then and took a ton of pieces of them to contests. But then I learned about jazz music, and wow, did my world open up. He laughs. That's so cool, Marinette says in awe. My parents put me in a few music lessons as a kid. A bit of drums and guitar, but I never really got good at it. I'm more of a classically artistic person than anyone else, but I do understand music for the most part. Did you know we had a music theory class at school? Adrienne looks utterly surprised, but that's not what strikes her the most. Most importantly, he looks genuinely overjoyed by the prospect of a music theory class, rather than upset over his father. She takes this as a victory, having cheered him up. It makes a little smile appear on her face as she nods energetically to answer his unasked question. Then I have got to take that class, Adrienne mutters. Yeah, Julika and Rose both loved it. I'm sure if you ask them, they can tell you more about it. But I also do know that there's a couple levels of it. At least 2, maybe 3. Maybe switch it into next term. I think I will. Marinette's acutely aware of the rain that is slowing down to the point where, if she was to walk home, it wouldn't be totally miserable. But she'd rather sit here with Adrienne, knowing she was able to cheer him up and was trusted enough for him to be this vulnerable to. This is way better than walking in the rain.